about the carbon neutral fire service. You don't need to wait for Jenny to ask.
Sorry,
by the way, what I mean by carbon neutral services, that you can, it's not zero emission, it's carbon neutral in the sense that you can have one area that's carbon positive but another that's carbon negative.
We have looked at this. We've decided to do the rather more hair shirt way of going carbon neutral, rather than just doing everything the way you would do it normally and just chucking some money at a tree planting scheme and saying, well, there you go, that's our carbon offsetting. We've actually decided to go down the tougher, but I think ultimately, we corporately think the more sustainable route, which is actually looking at the use of zero tailpipe emissions vehicles. Now, we've been trialling that with some of the smaller vehicles in the fleet, and the Commissioner and I have discussed, but I wouldn't want to set any hairs running because it's very early stage discussions about what a electric primary pumping appliance might look like, or what the cost implications, what the operational implications. So we are looking at that. Very proud to say that we're rolling out electric vehicle charging points on a number of the fire station forecourts. And one of the big advantages of the major refurbishment program that we've had across a number of our fire stations, and actually, though this wasn't a significant driver, the fact that LSP5 removed some of our oldest fire stations from our property portfolio has meant that some of those buildings which were never designed with energy efficiency in mind, because they've gone and some of the older buildings are being refurbed, our property portfolio will have a massive shift in the right direction. I'm not going to wear too many laurels on this because I know that you'll pull me up saying there's a lot of work still to go. I think our attitude is very much in the right place. And ultimately, I know I'm going to steal the Commissioner's line, but I get to do the talking first, so I'm going to do it anyway. Preventing fires from happening is one of the most effective carbon reduction activities the London Fire Brigade. And I know it sounds glib, but as you can imagine, the impact of a fire, particularly some of the waste fires that we've been dealing with, as well as household fires, can have an absolute massive impact on our carbon footprint. So that is and will remain a massive priority for us. Sorry, I've stolen all your thunder.
If I could just add, in terms of the numbers, the reduction in the number of fires that we get in London, I've been trying very hard, both internally and externally, to try and quantify that in terms of the carbon reduction as a result of reducing those number of fires. It's proved impossible to do so far, but I would really love to be able to do that. Because I think actually we would be very close to being balanced already, probably, but that's me speculating. The other side to it is, just the Chairman mentioned there, things like the fire at Wasteful Fuel down in Orpington recently. There is an issue, I think, nationally around the control of these sites, and I do think that the Environment Agency particularly needs stronger powers than they've got. It's one of the things that we've been speaking about ever since the Wasteful Fuel fire has been in place. We've been leading some work nationally on behalf of the Chief Fire Association in London, but I do think there needs to be greater regulation around those sites because they are the way future, but at the moment it's counterintuitive that actually we get more fires there.
Thank you. I know you're doing good work, and it's interesting what you've just laid out as well. It sounds very positive. Could I ask you to consider, or to do, one thing that could make quite a big difference, and I think you'd be a leader in many ways in this. Could you look at switching your electricity supplier to a renewable energy supplier? I don't want to name one particularly, but doing that would have quite a big impact. And if you're using more electricity, then that would be a very good idea.
Can I come back
quite
to that?
Often it is, yeah.
I think we already do that.
Sorry, all these people talking.
If I can check and write back to you, Ms Jones, because actually we certainly have used green energy suppliers previously. A lot of that was renewables, and I'm not sure that we're not doing that already, actually. So I will come back and...
It's switching to a supplier that actually generates all their electricity from solar and wind,
right, okay,
and not from nuclear. So if you... will you let me know about that? Could you look at whether or not you could do it and let me know?
Yep.
Okay, that's great. Or let the chair know, and then we can circulate it. Can I ask you as well, on your carbon savings, how far or how close are you to achieving your 32% CO2 target is by reduction is by 2016? How close are you to that?
This is where I have to fess up a little bit. I'm looking down at my briefing notes, and there's a line here that says currently the LFB is 60% carbon neutral. I'm very proud of that figure, but if you push me on exactly how we justify that, I'm going to struggle a little bit. But it is something that we are taking very, very seriously. And I've just been reminded by the Commissioner that on the new stations that they rolled out, so Harold Hill and Ilford both have extensive solar panelling, grey water capture and reuse. So as we go through, and there may well be an opportunity when we go through the disposal programme of the stations under LSP5, as we get a capital injection, some of which obviously we will want to use to modernise more of our existing fire station portfolio, that will give us a real shot in the arm and enable us to take a big step forward on this.
So you have 105 buildings, and you've got 28 with solar arrays at the moment. So is it actually finance that's stopping you doing more, or is it the particular situations of the fire stations, or what?
It partially is finance. I mean, there is a cost. Some of it is the fact that obviously we need to be very careful in the sequencing, because some of these refurbishments, as with the Old Kent Road and not Orpington, but the Old Kent Road and some others, you physically have to close the fire station for a period of time whilst you're doing the refurb, and we have to be very careful about not creating gaps in provision. So some of it's about money, absolutely, and the capital injection we'll get from the disposals process will help with that. Some of it's about sequencing, and some of it is about, with some of our older buildings, just meant that the things that we would like to do were just physically not possible with the buildings, and actually moving on average to younger buildings as our portfolio mix will make it easier for us to do that.
Sequencing, is that planning? Planning deployment of...
No, it's more internal operational planning. That for example, we can't have the Old Kent Road closed, but then also have, this one my geography lets me down. Deptford closed at the same time, because actually the pump from Old Kent Road would need to go there to cover the ground. So we'd have to say we can do that one, but whilst we're doing that one we can't do any of these, and so it's a bit of kind of like keeping plates spinning in that regard.
I like the sound of the trial of the tailpipe zero emissions. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How many vehicles involved, and have you bought them, or are you just trying them?
We've been trialling a range of vehicles that are zero emissions from a range of manufacturers. The trials are going really well. It's to replace a fleet of about 60 or 70 vehicles, small vehicles at the moment. They are due to be replaced in the next 18 months to 2 years. So I'm hoping by the time we get through that replacement, all of our smaller vehicles will be zero emissions. And so it's going very well at the moment. We are, as Chairman said, I'm really keen to look at what we can do for fire engines. Sadly, the fire engine market across the country is relatively small for the amount of investment that would be required. So what I've been doing recently is speaking to TfL, because they've got hydrogen buses, electric buses and hybrid buses. If they can have buses that do that, I can't see why I can't have fire engines that do the same thing. So we're trying to talk to them about that. And just very briefly, if I can, 32% reduction by 2015-16 we've already achieved. And the Resources Committee on the 13th of November will be receiving a report where we're proposing a further, more difficult target by 2020.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Make a better target. Can you tell me as well about the charging points?
Yep.
Are they going into every fire station or every building?
They're going into, at the moment, we're looking to put them into 75 fire stations. We're looking as many of those as we possibly can. Not all sites lend themselves to it, but many of those as possible will be available for public charging. So we've got a grant from the government, £500,000 we have to spend this financial year to introduce those 75 charging points, and then those charging points are available to the public, and we will get some income back from that as the public use them as well.
And the public won't get in the way of the fire engines on the...
No, that's why I say they can't go to all fire stations, but majority of fire stations we can do it on. They're going on forecourts and areas of the station which don't affect the operational capability of the station.
Thank you.
Right. Assembly Member Malthouse.